let's see.
And to talk more.
We're gonna go now over to those worthless EU allies, F tier allies. Only ally is Israel. These fucking bozos over in the EU need to start pulling their weight. So we're gonna go over to France 24 and see what the Europe's perspective is on some of this stuff. So this is disaster. Attacks on gas infrastructure in Iran and Qatar may set us back several years.
About this story. Live on the line with me is Adi Imsirovic. He's a lecturer in energy systems at the University of Oxford in the United Kingdom. He joins us today from there. Hello to you, and thank you for speaking to France 24.
Thanks for having me.
Look, from an energy perspective, just help us understand why these attacks on gas infrastructure in Iran and in Qatar, as well as elsewhere in the Gulf, are such a big deal.
Well, quite frankly, to put it mildly, it's a bit of a disaster. I think it's important to say also that even though the war in Iran was seen as an existential war for Iran, there was an unwritten rule that the infrastructure, infrastructure, especially the important key infrastructure, would not be attacked. And both sides, I think, for a while abstained from that until yesterday, Israel actually bombed the South Pass.
Oops.
Now, the problem with gas is difficult to store. The second thing is it's highly flammable, highly explosive.
Yeah,
And what
duh.
happened, just to give you an example, in 2020, there was a fire in a processing plant in Norway. It took 1.5 years to repair it. So any damage in the gas infrastructure that's serious, like it is right now in Qatar, may set us back several years before, even if the Strait of Hormuz is opened, can be exported back into the markets. So the impact is immediate and it's very, very long lasting. And it's really bad news unless it totally de-escalates very, very soon.
And you say, look, the impact.
Well, it's already fucked. The amount of damage that was done, I think Qatar said it would take, three years or so to repair it. So, and that's like 20%, I think, of the exports from there, from that strait. So, which, like, I can't remember. That strait is like 25% of all global exports of oil. So, it's like a 20% of 25% of the total oil market is essentially going to be taken out for the next 5 years, which is pretty significant. Um, but it'll also just like keep going up. And also the European Union like depends incredibly highly on particularly that strait. So they're already in an energy crunch. So they're going to be, for at least the next 5 years, they're probably going to be screwed. And that's assuming that it ended today, which it probably won't. We might be, it might be like 5 years before this war is even over. So, like, we'll see.
Is immediate. We've been reporting that countries in Asia are particularly dependent on gas, but oil as well from this region. In what way is that impact already being felt?
Well, some refineries already, now let's move a little bit to oil. Some refineries already cutting runs. And the problem is also the sort of policies, government policies that actually make it worse by saying, for example, China has banned distillates are jet fuel and diesel exports. Some other countries have done the same, limited or at least limited those exports. Now, Asia depends very much on Chinese diesel, for example. And now, with ban on those exports, they're going to be cut short exactly in a situation where their refineries are actually short of oil that they expected to come, and their refineries are actually cutting runs. So there's a very real possibility of serious shortages in Asia.
A possibility of shortages in Asia. What about here?
This, by the way, these attacks impact everyone. So this isn't like the Iran strategically shutting off the Strait of Hormuz for like all ships except China or whatever. China will be impacted to some extent by this as well. Now, lucky for China, they have a lot of green energy, so like they'll probably be fine. To be honest, they can always just like they produce solar panels like I produce carbon dioxide when I breathe, like so it's I think that they'll probably be okay, but like it'll obviously take a hit though. Like it will impact them in the short term, but I think that they can outproduce around it if I had to guess.
In Europe and in the United States.
Oh, sorry, but the other Asian countries like Japan, Taiwan, uh, I don't know, just like that whole region, South Korea, like they're gonna be screwed by this outcome. And this is just like I said, this is like 20% of the energy I think coming out of that strait. So, and they rely on basically exclusively that strait for energy. Maybe some rely on Russia still, or if they get sanction relief, but yeah.
States where clearly this is an issue that is animating Donald Trump.
Absolutely. Look, I think we're losing right now at least 10 million barrels, or let's call it roughly 10% of the world production of oil. We don't have that.
That's
It's not
about what I
coming
was
out. So,
thinking.
so short term, in the West, we're okay, especially OECD countries have at least 90 days reserves. We have strategic reserves in the United States, in China. We will be okay for several weeks. The biggest issue here is the traders in the market don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's no objective to this war, at least from the United States side. We don't know what it is. Hesed said we'll fight until
Hey,
the end.
Hexgus just told me, man. It's every speck of gunpowder. When there's not a single molecule of gunpowder in the nation state of Iran, that's when we'll be done.
What that means, I have no idea. So the people involved in the market just don't see the end of that. And this war continues, we will have this big gap in the market that will lead to some sort of demand destruction, i.e., somebody will have not to use oil to 10% level. So we will have less flights, less holidays, less miles traveled, and hopefully the governments will not subsidize prices or cap prices because that will probably lead to shortages. Hopefully the governments will help the needy, but believe the price is high so that people stop traveling unnecessary travel or stop driving unnecessary driving. But there will be demand destruction. We will be needing that 10% somewhere.
Well, also, this is another thing to think about is this is going to be a boon to China's like solar panel industry and various other green energy initiatives because people are going to need alternative sources of energy. If gas is going to be like, well, I don't know, I'm going to use American dollars so that my American viewers understand or whatever, but like if gas is like $9 or $10 a gallon, um, then suddenly those BYD cars are starting to look real appetizing, right? Oh, instead of, this road trip costing like $200 to go on or whatever, I can just charge it and then like it's basically free in comparison. I mean, yeah, obviously there's the electrical energy that it takes to charge a car, but that will be significantly cheaper than gas. But like same with if they start trying to get like solar energy going or wind energy going, all of this is going to turn into a huge windfall for China.
I want to ask you about something that we have heard within the last sort of half an hour or so. This is a joint statement from six European countries, six nations rather, five European countries and Japan. They say that they are ready collectively to boost efforts to ensure safe passage of ships through the
Whoa.
Strait of Hormuz. Now, that isn't a confirmation as far as we understand
Okay.
it, that these countries.
I can already tell. I can already tell by that wishy-washy ass language that they're not going to do anything. They might send some ships near the strait. They might send some ships to like, gather intel or whatever. But like anything they do, I think, will be symbolic, and I don't think it will lead to more oil and gas being transported out of the strait, if I had to guess.
Countries are going to send the ships themselves, but they're talking about trying to help out in one way or another. Do you think that that will go some way to calming the oil markets that, of course, we've seen such turbulence on over the past few weeks?
Also, if they did send, like, even if they did all send ships to start escorting them or whatever, Iran would just blow them up. And then it's like it's not going to actually increase oil production if like people are still going to be scared to go through it, whether like like if Iran is blowing up everything around the strait versus or like blowing up the ships like that aren't Chinese flagged or whatever, or if they're just blowing up the naval escort ships or whatever. Like either way, I don't think that most oil tankers are going to start like suddenly going through there.
Weeks.
I think it's a very positive development towards calming the markets and calming the whole situation and de-escalating the whole situation. I just don't see the results anytime soon because, firstly, I don't see any of these countries selling their own navy in there because it's very, very dangerous. Let's also remember that the Iranian regime has been crippled. So it's not quite and it's very decentralized at the moment, and it does operate in a decentralized way. So it's not clear that everyone in the Iranian armed forces is going to follow the orders, whatever the agreement may be reached with the Iranian regime. So I don't see European countries sending their ships. I think they will probably thinking more in terms of negotiations, de-escalation, possibly some sort of information sharing, possibly some
Yeah,
help with the provision of war insurance or something like that. We haven't seen the detail
yeah,
yet.
exactly.
No, we haven't seen the
And also that, yeah, that's basically what I said. But also, uh, just the language is so wishy-washy. It makes it very clear to me that they're not going to actually do like naval escort missions.
detail yet, and we haven't seen the detail of something else. Forgive me for asking you things that are developing.
If you want to know what I actually think, I think that this whole like this thing where they're saying they're going to do this is literally just to like calm the markets. Like I think that Trump's got together with Taichi or whatever her name is, and maybe a few other people and said, "Hey, you're going to come out tomorrow and you're going to say we're joining some mission to boost efforts or whatever." And like and they probably said, "Well, we're not going to send ships." And he's like, "I don't care, just go out there and say it." And then that'll help bring the oil prices down at least temporarily or whatever. That's kind of what I think happened.
Live as we're on air, but I do think this is rather interesting. This is from the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent today, in the United States, that is. He has used the phrase unsanction. He says we may unsanction Iranian oil that's already at sea. He says that's about 140 million barrels. How significant would that be? What kind of impact are we talking about if such oil from Iran is unsanctioned by the United States?
Sadly, the current US administration don't seem to know what they're doing. They don't seem to have any experts to advise them. It's hilarious, to be honest with you. If it wasn't
That's
this
why I'm laughing.
tragic, it would be very funny. Because to
Oh, it is very
unsanction
funny.
Iran,
It's very funny. Things can be both. Like I love laughing at tragedy, man. It's like the only way I get through this fucking like shit show of a world that we have, like in the shit show of a country that we live in, is by fucking laughing at how stupid it is. I think it's very important to do that. Like, and also to some extent, it also takes the edge off of like the evil that these people are if you just laugh at how stupid they are. So, yeah, I think just do it. It's
Iranian
fine. It's
barrels right
fine.
now is a kind of contradiction in terms, right? Those barrels were on the water and they were going most likely to China anyway, because China did not particularly subscribe to, especially independent refiners in China, were the main buyers of the Iranian barrels. And prior to this conflict, most of those barrels were going to China anyway. So they were going to China anyway. By unsanctioning these barrels, Iran will probably just be able to reach a higher price with their sellers because now somebody else can buy those barrels as well, not just China. So they're just basically giving more revenue to Iran, nothing else. Those barrels would have
Yeah.
probably would have got sold anyway.
That's funny. That's funny. America's incompetence will be its downfall, or at least that's one part of it. Its incompetence and its arrogance will inevitably be its downfall.